So today we're going to talk about leveraging content assets to sell inbound leads. Very exciting, so I'm going to get into that, share all that with you if I can get this little device to move my slides. What am I missing, gentlemen? I'm not advancing. There we go. This is Inbound 12, that's the hashtag. I am at Andrew T. Quinn. Please tweet me up, that'd be fantastic. Anything you take away from the presentation, that'd be awesome too. So also, if you can rate my presentation on bit.ly Inbound 12, I would really appreciate that. I promise you that I'm going to do the absolute best to make this as the most profitable 45 minutes you spend at Inbound. So as I said before, we're going to talk about leveraging inbound leads. My name is Andrew Quinn. I run team development at HubSpot. I am responsible for training and development of all the people that work at HubSpot. I spend the majority of my time working with salespeople and training them on the HubSpot sales process, which those of you that are customers, you've gone through. Those of you that are considering HubSpot, you're in the middle of it right now. So I'm going to give away a few secrets to those of you that haven't actually bought the software yet. Those of you that have, you're going to recognize a few things. And a key thing about inbound leads, which is what you're all attempting to generate through your inbound marketing, try and generate customers, is that they're not always what they seem. And in many ways, I'm not either. As I'm standing in front of you today, you've probably made an assumption or two in the split second that I've been up here talking, and you probably never would have guessed that I also look like this on the weekends. I indeed play guitar in an 80s hair metal cover band, and if you're lucky, tonight you'll see me here. So if you looked at the cover of your brochure, you would notice that very photo on the front of it. So something to think about. Yeah, very exciting. I will throw the horns with pride. So that brings me to my first point, is that those leads marketing sends us never by wah, wah, wah. See, I'm a sales guy, and I've been a sales manager, I've been a salesperson, I've been a sales trainer, I've been a sales management trainer, and quite frankly, salespeople feel this way all the time. If there's any salespeople in the room, my intention isn't to offend you, but let's face it, you guys always like to blame marketing when things aren't going well, and when things are going great, it's all you. Right? Exactly. What I really want to focus on is the fact that for salespeople, it's really not about you, it's about them. It's about the customers, and it's about the things that they're doing. And from a marketer's perspective, you're all trying to create that relationship, to get that ball rolling, to create some sort of initial connection to your brand, to your product, to your service, that a salesperson can then capitalize on. And some of you may be marketers and sellers at the same time. But it really is important from an inbound selling perspective to think about the person that you're communicating with. Here's what I'm talking about. I'm going to introduce you to a fictitious HubSpot prospect. So I'm going to be doing this in the terms of sort of the way we sell our software, but it's absolutely applicable to any different type of business. I've counseled a bunch of different businesses that struggle with selling their inbound leads, and I always recommend this same process, and it definitely works. So this is Maria Jones. She is a director of marketing for a fictitious company called Grill Cover World. They make high-end grill covers for those like, you know, $4,000 stainless steel grills you see in your outdoor space. I've been reading the, what do you call it, the Sky Mall a little bit too much. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? So they manufacture, they wholesale, they retail. They're located out in Colorado. So that's a general gist of sort of the persona we're going to use as we work through this sales process. So my guess is a lot of you receive sales calls. And I would also be willing to bet that your sales calls that you receive on your voicemails every day, I probably get between 10 and 15 a day, sound just like this. Hi, this is Andrew Quinn. I'm calling from HubSpot. We provide inbound marketing software. Grill Cover would be a great fit for what we do. We should chat. How many get that at least once or twice a day? Fantastic. This doesn't work. Doesn't work at all, particularly when you've got inbound leads. So the thing to think about is, it's really this type of an idea. What were you looking for help with? Now, if you think about it, if you walk into a retail store and somebody accosts you the minute you walk through the door and they say, what were you looking for help with? You're like, I'm all set. This is a little bit of a different angle, because in many ways, somebody who's become an inbound lead for you has converted on something that you've created, some piece of content that they wanted to consume in what I call that transaction for information. right? Somebody's been willing to say, I'm willing to buy that piece of content you got and give you my email address to buy it, or give you my phone number, or give you my biggest marketing challenge. So this whole notion as a salesperson, when I first connect with them, it's this, what were you looking for help with? So your sales team really starts to need to understand the value that exists inside the lead intelligence associated with the leads that you provide, and then how to leverage that content that you've created through the sales process. And that's what I'm going to do for you today, is sort of share with you how we do that. So first, this is our sales process. It's a 6-step prospect that goes research, prospect, connect, qualify, discover, demo, and close. So in each stage in the research phase, we're trying to understand what's going on with this lead. Is it something we want to pursue? Prospect is when we start picking up the phone, sending emails, trying to get in a conversation. Connect is when we actually talk to somebody, right? They answer our phone, they call us back, we get a conversation going. Qualify, discover, that's a thing called the inbound marketing assessment. My guess is the majority of you went through that when you first connected with us. If that assessment goes well, we'll move you into a demo. And then from a demo, we'll go into a closing sequence and try to move people into the software and get them moving forward with inbound marketing. So that's our process. You probably have a similar sales process. As I said before, I've been in sales a very long time. Most sales processes run between 5 and 7 steps when you boil it down. This is the one that we developed over about a 5-year window as we've sort of iterated on our sales process. So I'm going to talk about the research phase first. So if you think about what's going on inside HubSpot, somebody converts on a lead. That then creates a lead record. In the case of being synchronized with Salesforce, you have lead intelligence that exists in Salesforce, and you also have the intelligence that exists inside of HubSpot. So when I look at this, I can make a couple of quick judgments. So Maria, she's looked at Better Business Blogging. She's downloaded the LinkedIn, How to Master LinkedIn Marketing. That's the most recent thing she's done. She's also done our CEO Guide to Internet Marketing. And I start to ask myself some questions. Is she considering making a pitch to the CEO that we need to do some more internet marketing, we need to make some changes in the way we're doing this? Is she now thinking about, I need to get more wholesale leads, so I want to get on LinkedIn and see who out there is a leader in the retailers that I might want to connect to? So she's trying to make some decisions on how she might improve her marketing. So I'm making those judgments looking at this, and then of course I can drop into the HubSpot record, and I can look at what's going on here, and there's a couple of decisions that I'll make. One is, how long has she been coming here? So she's been visiting me for 2 years. And I say to myself, all right, has anybody talked to her yet? Has she bought yet? Why hasn't she moved forward? What types of things has she been looking at? She's clearly visiting us with a fairly decent frequency. I'd also then look at some of the other things that she's consuming. And she's looking at search engine optimization. She's looking at the marketing ebook, 25 website must-haves. So she's clearly taking steps to try and move in some direction with her internet marketing. So that gives me a little bit of fuel for my first call. And that's really going to take us into our first sequence, because we're holding some cards right now. Right? As a salesperson, I've got some cards. I know what Maria is interested in. I know how often she's been visiting me. I have some pretty good insights just looking at her website, what business she's in. So I can couple those two things, and I can create a much warmer introduction to Maria and try to get her to engage with me. So that takes us to our second step, which is prospect. And how do we actually get to what we call a connect? So this is where I'm going to do voicemail email sequences. Some sales professionals will tell you, you should never leave a voicemail, you should never send an email, always wait to get that person on the phone. I completely disagree with that with respect to inbound leads. Because in many ways, the prospect has already made the overture to you. They've already stepped forward, they've already, in a sense, engaged in a transaction with you. They've given you your email address, they've given you their phone number, they've given you some information in exchange for something that you've provided to them. You're already in a relationship. That's the way we look at it. So to that end, the first thing we'll do is we'll leave a voicemail. And there's a couple of key points in this voicemail I want to point out. We'll reference the thing that Maria recently did. You recently downloaded How to Master LinkedIn Marketing. You also had mentioned in one of the form fields, I wouldn't say form fields, but you also mentioned that your biggest marketing challenge is getting more wholesaler leads. I've been to your website. I noticed a few small changes you could make to get more visitors and get more of them to convert into leads. Please let me know when you have a few minutes to connect. My name's Andrew Quinn, calling from HubSpot. Here's my number. There's something really interesting about this. Does anybody recognize what it is? What do you think? Absolutely. Name and phone number at the end. I can't tell you how effective this is when you do it that way. People take notice, and we also slow down. We deliberately teach our salespeople to slow down when you get to the end. Hi, my name is Andrew Quinn. I'm calling from HubSpot. My number is 617, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we repeat it, right? We typically say it nice and slow, just like an executive would. But anyway, that's a little bit of an aside. So the other thing that we do is we have a deliberate voicemail email sequence. So I leave this voicemail, and I immediately follow it up with an email, right? Because I know Maria's email address. She's already traded. It's in my CRM. It's on the lead record. And I'm going to send an email that mirrors it, but I'm going to up the ante just a little bit. Oh, sorry. I up the ante just a little bit, and I put in a little tip. You can do this in your business as well. You got to think about what information do you bring to the party? What insights do you bring that helps somebody address their need, their problem, their want, their desire, whatever that is? I mean, that's why we sell things, to solve people's problems, to help them realize opportunities, to take advantage of challenges, whatever those may be. So we try to add a little bit of a tip in there as a hook. And in this case, it's, I noticed your page titles don't contain the right keywords. For Google, it's a simple change, but can have a big impact. So I've given a little value in my email. And then what happens is we start to, what I call, escalate the value and then break it off. And my guess is there are definitely people in this room that experienced this sequence from us. So the next email I send, or next voicemail, is going to have a little bit more. Yeah, you know that page title thing I told you about? You could do this, this, and this. I also noticed that that call to action you have, it's actually not quite set up as properly. If you give me a ring, I'll give you a tip on how you can fix it and make it work a little better, right? Follow that up with an email that reflects the same thing. And I do that maybe 3 or 4 times. On the 4th time, maybe the 5th time, it depends on the prospect. It's a little bit of a decision-making process there. We break it off. We break up with them. We'll leave them a voicemail and say something to the effect that, you know what, I've left you a couple of voicemails. Looks like this isn't a priority right now. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not going to bother you anymore with any other calls. If you want to connect with me, here's my number. I'll send you a final email. That's it. When that email goes out, I can't tell you how many we get back. The people are like, no, 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 I've actually been interested in what you've been leaving me. I definitely want to connect. And we get a lot of responses that way. It's a really interesting sequence, and it works. So essentially what's happening here is I'm leveraging the intelligence I have and the insights on my content, and I'm using those to create some sort of relationship. So let's say now I actually talk to Maria. I get to connect with her. She's actually talking to me on the phone. This is where I'm going to take sort of the same approach. I'm going to let her know that I'm calling from HubSpot. You recently visited our website. You downloaded How to Master LinkedIn Marketing. Do you remember doing that? And I'm either going to get one of 2 answers. What do you think they are? Yes or no, exactly. Yes, I did, or no, I don't. Either way, I'm going to say, all right, well, what were you looking for help with? Right? 'Cause she came to our site, she visited it, I know it. And invariably, you're going to get an answer here like, well, not really sure. Or I guess I was trying to figure out how I might get LinkedIn to work a little better. All right, great. So then we'll follow that up with a question, something along the lines of, so, you know, what is it you're actually trying to accomplish with LinkedIn? Or I was taking a look at your website and I noticed that you've got this and this set up. Are you trying to use your website to generate leads and to drive revenue in that fashion? So in a way, what I'm doing there is I've already broken through the ice. Because that's the hard part as a salesperson, is getting over that first like 30 seconds of they're like, who is this? Why do I want to talk to you? But we've actually, through that voicemail email sequence in this opening, broken that ice. And then we start moving into the sales process. So the key thing you need to take away at this stage of the game is, do your salespeople really understand why website visitors convert on your calls to action? Do they really get that? As for us, we spend a lot of time training our prospects or training our salespeople on the specific reasons why someone might convert on a social media opportunity versus an SEO opportunity versus a blogging kit versus a webinar we may be running. We're constantly educating them on the value associated with these things and why we expect people to convert on them so they can leverage those in the sales process to create a relationship that ultimately will result in a sale. So the thing that sales really needs to recognize is that content that you've created as inbound marketers creates a tremendous amount of credibility for the salesperson. And a lot of them don't realize that. They look at the content that you create and they're like, oh, they're doing arts and crafts over there in marketing. They're writing a bunch of blog articles, whatever. Right? They don't realize that there's actually gold in those articles. There's gold in those white papers. There's gold in those ebooks. Because it builds my credibility. Because one of the things that you guys probably experienced when you bought HubSpot is that we were really helpful. We were really giving you lots of insights into how to make your business better before we even asked you to consider buying the software. Because what we're doing is we're building trust and credibility because we're actually recommending you to do 3 very distinct things. You probably didn't think about it this way, but we sell 3 things at HubSpot. We sell the software, we sell this whole notion of inbound marketing, and we also sell the work you have to do to make it go. Right? Because it's not a silver bullet, right? You got to blog, you got to create landing pages, you got to promote social media. All that stuff's got to happen. So it allows us to build trust and credibility. My guess is there are similar aspects in your business where you need to make that work. So in many ways, there's hidden value, right? There's money under the mattress for your salespeople in the blog posts, the white papers, the ebooks, the videos, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the big thing. We just did our connect with Maria. We realized that, you know what? Maria actually is a fairly good fit for the software. We've shared a few tips. We've told her a little bit about what HubSpot does. And we said, you know what? You probably would be a good candidate for our inbound marketing assessment. Takes about 20 minutes. Give you a bit of a rundown, deeper dive into your website, do some analysis on the HubSpot software, show you what's going on. So I'll send a follow-up email. I'm going to summarize my key points. But then I'm also going to link to case studies, blog posts, and white papers. So it's time to send that email to Maria. And this is where we're really going to leverage that content. So I'm going to go through as a salesperson at HubSpot, and I have my favorites. All our salespeople do. And they're going to look for those blog posts, those white papers, those case studies that build my case going forward. Right? So in this case, I'm sending forward one on a manufacturer that's a HubSpot customer that's successful. Right? Grill Cover World's a manufacturer. They're trying to sell wholesale. They do some retail. FireRock does the same thing. So I'm going to send them a case study. I'm also sending them a link to our product page so they can see what's going on in the product. And I'm also going to send our ROI report. And it's going to look like this. Right? Here's our inbound marketing assessment. And I'm not going to certainly read this to you, but I want you to pay attention to the links. This is another thing that salespeople don't realize. Is there's 2 things going on here. One is I'm building my credibility. I'm sending content that's relative to the conversation we had. But what do you think is going to happen when they click on these links? And they go to those pages? What's that? We're tracking them, right? So now 2 things are going to happen. One is a salesperson, I'm going to get a lead revisit alert. And it's going to tell me that, hey, guess what? That email I just sent to Maria, she's looking at it. And she looked at the case study that I sent her, but she didn't look at the ROI. Or maybe she did. Maybe she looks at all 3. So it starts to feed the lead intelligence and keys a lead revisit alert. So let's say Maria does that. This is what I get in my email. As a salesperson, this comes to me and I go, all right, I can click right on it. I can view it in Salesforce or I can view it in HubSpot. And I can see what's she actually doing. Our salespeople rely on this all day long. So next stage, we're moving now into qualified discover, right? So we're talking to Maria. We're now going to run our inbound marketing assessment. And essentially what this is, and this is a key point with selling inbound leads, it's a qualifying call. Qualifying is the key to selling inbound leads. All right? In many ways, we rule prospects out in the inbound marketing assessment. It's a 20-minute opportunity for us to really decide, is this person worth pursuing any further? Because the big mistake salespeople make is the minute they get somebody on the line, they just start driving towards the sale, and they'll hang in there, and they'll waste their time with people that aren't going to buy. They're nice people, the salespeople, and the people they're talking to are nice people, but they don't have a fit, so there's not going to be a purchase. So why am I wasting valuable time doing that? So the cool thing about the inbound marketing assessment that we conduct, and there's a variety of different sort of assessments you could do, consultations you could do in your business from a selling perspective. It allows us to back away if the opportunity isn't real. And some of you might have had that happen to you. A salesperson might have said, you know what, it looks like you're a little early in the process. What I would recommend is spend some time with our free resources. I'm going to send you a link to a couple of blog posts, a couple of white papers that are relative to what you're trying to accomplish. If that makes sense to you, you can certainly give me a ring back. We can talk deeper. It gives us a way to get out and not really spend a ton of time in the demo. People in our company that are really good at this, they have a close rate between 60 and 80% when they get to the demo, because they're not wasting their time talking to people that aren't going to buy. So it's a key point in selling inbound leads is getting your sales team to understand the very importance of qualifying and really understanding how that works. So again, we've run our inbound marketing assessment. Maria is in fact qualified. All right, we decide, you know what, she's worth going to demo with. So I'm going to again follow up with Maria with an email. And I'm going to again cull through my case study database. I'm going to select a case study or a blog article that reflects some of the things that we talked about in that meeting. And it turns out that she's having a hard time generating leads off the site. So we talked about content generation as a way to leverage leads. We also talked about different ways that you can use the software. So we find a case study that connects to how she might be able to solve her problem. And again, same deal. We're going to send a follow-up email. In this case, we might take a screenshot of the analysis that we did in the competitors report, but I want to draw your attention again to the 2 links in the email. Same deal. I've sent that email along. I now get to see, does Maria actually connect with what I said? Because we did this inbound marketing assessment. We now expect to talk to her in a demo, which we're going to attempt to try and go into a closing sequence at the end of that. So I want to see, is she actually going to read what I send her? Because it gives me an indication of engagement. Is she really engaged with what I'm doing? So as a salesperson, it gives me a little bit extra insight as I move through my sales process. Beware of suspects, okay? I can't stress this enough. When you're working with inbound leads and when you generate a lot of content, people start to consume it. They'll also start to consider consuming your time, right? Now, we run into that in spades now because we generate so many leads, and we've developed a reputation over the 6 years that we've been doing this as an organization that provides a lot of insights to people. So prospects that we talk to expect us to do that on the phone with them too. But the way that we think about it is our salespeople are not a free resource, they are a paid resource. Therefore, they need to be selling something, or we need to get people connected to the stuff that they can consume online. So you need to be very careful when you're working inbound leads to qualify and rule out the suspects. Very, very important concept. So your salespeople don't waste time and they get that perspective of like, well, all the leads marketing sends me are bad. It's typically because the salespeople don't really understand the effective qualifying methods necessary to decide who are the right people to pursue. As you can tell, I'm very opinionated on this subject. So now we're going to demo with Maria. So this is where we're actually going to show the software for the first time. So if you think about it, we've had 2 conversations already with Maria. We haven't shown really anything of HubSpot yet. It's been all about her and all about the problems she's trying to solve and providing opportunities for her to think about how she might solve it. So this is where the whole process flips, and we're going from what to how. Because remember what we did in the beginning, it's what were you looking for help with? And that's what I've been doing through this entire process is giving counsel, giving recommendations, qualifying through to see, is Maria actually in a position to let us help her? Turns out she is. So now I'm going to flip my process and start actually demonstrating how we can actually help her accomplish what she needs to accomplish. So in this stage, we're going to send one last email after we do that. So we run our demo. Now we're going to send our final email. And this one, again, is designed, because let's say we get to the end of that demo, and we say, all right, Maria, are you ready to buy HubSpot? And she goes, you know what? I got to talk to the CEO. She wouldn't bring the CEO on the call when we tried to do the demo, so we just couldn't get that to work. Or she needs to think about it, or the myriad other objections you're going to get when you try to close somebody. I never buy anything on the first conversation, or however that goes. So we're going to try and gauge, again, her engagement after that conversation. So again, we're going to go through and we're going to use a couple of different case studies. So in this case, we had talked about the fact that she's trying to move into some e-commerce, try to sell some grill covers online. Let's say that happened. So I'm going to send her a case study to that degree. And we had a debate over whether or not people would actually download things that she was trying to offer relative to the things that she sells. So we talked a lot about how we can put things behind forms, how that might work, and I'm going to send her a blog post that reflects the information that I shared, because she might not have captured it all. She might have drifted off while the conversation was happening. Any of those things could occur. I want to reinforce that. And again, I'm going to send an email. And in that email, now for us, right, we do have the online payment mechanism. She could buy right there through the email. but I'm really interested in the 2 things that I sent, and does she connect with those? Because that's going to also give me another sort of insight into engagement and if she's really paying attention to the things I've been talking about. So ultimately, all right, doing all right on time. So ultimately, what we're doing here is we're now going for the close, because I'm in the closing sequence at this stage of the game. I've gone ahead and I've found out what she needed help with. I've provided a lot of value in my process through the content that you guys have all created, that our marketing team has created. I've used that as a lever to try and move from each stage of the process. I've done a really good job qualifying at the qualifying stage to decide, is it worthwhile to move forward? Turns out that it is. I then move into the demo process. We've shown the software, high degree of interest, interested in buying, just wouldn't do it at the time. So now I'm in the closing sequence. So ultimately, what we've attempted to do through this whole process is demystify the shell game. Because ultimately, that's what sales really is. You have these leads, they're like a bunch of shells on the table. Your salespeople are moving them around, and they're hoping that one of those ones they pick up's got the nut under it, right? And they're going to make a sale. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we know where the nut is. And the way we do that is through using the lead intelligence in HubSpot, and then also leveraging the content through the process to gain engagement and to further sort of build our credibility and trust as we move our way through. So there's some 3 key things I want you to take away from this whole discussion, and that is the sales process has to match your marketing. All right, so if you think about what's going on here, for the majority of you, I'm willing to bet what your sales team does really is not in alignment with what's going on the marketing side of the equation. They probably aren't that aware of the content you're creating and why you're creating it. They probably aren't really aware of the work that you're doing to generate those leads or why you're generating them in the way that you are. And they're going on their merry way. And some of them may be aggressive and they're just working their territories. They're smiling and dialing. They're making it happen. Or they're sitting back waiting for the phone to ring, hoping somebody calls that day that they might be able to pursue. And they're talking about how difficult it is to sell, when the fact of the matter is they actually have everything at their disposal to do that. And that really comes down to leveraging that content. The content really are very strong levers. And also, salespeople need to be in a situation to qualify through every step of the process. So I think about it this way. I'm going to give you my final thought, and then I want to open it up to questions, because I'm guessing there's probably a lot of ideas running through your head, and I really wanted to spend a good 15 minutes sort of entertaining things that you guys want to talk about. So my final thought is this. How many have seen the Antiques Roadshow? Awesome. I'm a big fan of it. I think it's fantastic. In fact, I was watching it last night. There's this cute little old lady, and she's sitting there, and she's got this like emerald thing with a watch in it, and it turns out that it could be Cartier, and it was worth like 60 grand, and she was like, I had no idea. It's fantastic. I love that. The fact of the matter is your content's the same stuff. All right, your content's just like the stuff sitting in the attic, and I'll guarantee you for your salespeople, there are things you've already created that are worth 50 grand in a salesperson's pocket. There's no 2 ways about it. There's content we've created that our salespeople have relied on for 3 years running. They're just money blog posts. They're just gold white papers, gold webinars that we'll send that they rely on, and it just makes business happen. You already have this stuff if you've been doing content creation for any period of time. They just probably don't realize how to leverage it within your process. One of the things we do, and I'll give you one more tip before I open it up to questions, is we'll actually use the email tool in HubSpot to send emails to ourselves. So what our marketing team does is everything they're creating over time, they actually send us a weekly digest. So we'll know what are the new offers that they've put out this week. Right? So we'll see that, and that email comes to all of us right through the HubSpot email tool. They have us set up as a list inside the system. So we'll get the new offers, we'll get the webinars they're running, we'll get the new ebooks that are out there. So we have that constant communication on what's marketing creating, what's the value associated with it, so that we can leverage it in the sales process and take advantage of that to help build our trust and credibility and create more fabulous HubSpot inbound marketers. So, a couple of other sessions you might want to consider to help you work through this process. One is a colleague of mine, Dan Tyre, fantastic salesperson. He's a sales manager at HubSpot. He's going to run a session on what we call schmarketing. All right, it's a sales and marketing alignment. And it's something that we've strove for at HubSpot since the very beginning, because it's one of the things that we realize in most companies is broken. I work for a Fortune 50 company. I worked for Verizon for a number of years, and I can tell you that sales hated marketing and marketing hated sales. It was just the way that it was all the time. And we tried to do something different. And Dan's going to talk to you because he was one of the architects of that process and how we evolved that and how we still maintain it today. And the other is with Maggie Georgieva. She's actually responsible for all the offers that you guys see on HubSpot. She manages all of that. She's got, I think, 2 or 3 people that she works with, as well as we cull stuff from across the HubSpot team to create content and offers. But she's going to talk to you all about how to create ebooks, how to create webinars that customers will love, right? That prospects will love, and that your salespeople can leverage through the process. So with that, there's a mic in the center there. I'm more than happy to open this up to questions for the next 15 minutes that we've got. Sure, there's, can somebody run the mic? So that, or you can walk up to it either way, however you want to work that.
I can give it to you first.
Oh, actually, it's not cordless, I see. Go ahead, fire away.
Hi. So our sales and marketing team, they get along great.
Fantastic.
However, we try to produce a lot of content, and all of a sudden we're getting pushback from the sales team saying our leads won't close because you're offering too much for free.
So what do you sell?
We sell business consulting to independent pharmacy owners.
Okay, so you're selling consulting to pharmacy owners. You're giving away some insights that they can leverage. Mm-hmm. So why should they engage with, why should they actually buy your product? Like, where is the value beyond what you sell now?
Well, when they work with the coaches, they actually get customized help. So whether it's finance, marketing, leadership, customer service, we write content on all of those, but the coach will help them be very specific in sorting through all the clutter.
Okay.
And that's how we're trying to position it to them. However, it's not being translated that well. They think that they can do it all on their own.
When you say they can do it all on their own, what do you mean?
They think that they can go about executing the 5 steps or the 4 ways and see the same results that our members are seeing without having to pay the hefty fee.
So what that says to me, in many ways, is that the salespeople, I think, really don't understand the fundamental value of that actual service that you're providing, and they're relying too heavy on the content and collateral as where the value is. Like, we actually ran into this probably about 4 years ago when we were first, really starting to aggressively sell HubSpot. The salespeople relied more on the consulting that we would offer, the inbound marketing education that we would offer, and less on the value of the software. And the way we made that shift is really spending a lot of time doing 4 things. Is we talked about sort of like, what's a feature in HubSpot and the business value of that feature, right? How do we actually introduce that feature? How do we present it, and then how do we tie it down to their business? So in many ways, you've got a similar circumstance, whereas there's a certain feature, which is a coaching service that you provide, or some kind of value that they get in connecting with your coach, right? And there's probably 5 or 6 separate things that they get in doing that. Mm-hmm. So they need to understand what is the real business value of that? How do they actually present that in a way and then tie it into that customer's business? And the way we do that is, in this discovery process, we look for a thing called goal, plan, challenge, and timeline. Again, that's goal, plan, challenge, and timeline. We try to understand in a business, what are they trying to accomplish? What are they setting out to do? What plans do they currently have in place to get there? What things are in their way? What's going to prevent them from actually having that plan work? And how quickly does the plan need to work? And usually, we're then able to connect the value of HubSpot to the goals and challenges that they've got. And it's less on sort of the content, but more on the actual execution of it. I hope that helps.
Yes, definitely.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Who's next?
Thanks. Hi, Andrew. My name is Kara Posey. I'm with Speakerfile. And
sure.
I actually worked with HubSpot in a previous company before I came to Speakerfile. And one of the things that I found when I was there was that we hadn't created a lot of the content assets like Speakerfile has in terms of the ebooks, the white papers, things like that that you push people to, and then you can track whether they click on those links. And so we spent a lot of our initial consulting time figuring out that we needed to set these kinds of things up. Do you find that people are more successful on the platform in implementing these processes that you've discussed if they already have a lot of these assets in place?
ultimately, the more assets you have, the more opportunities they have to leverage it. So in many respects, the content needs to, because obviously a salesperson, they're going to sell based on whatever value they have at the time. So it is a process where the assets need to be developed for a bit. So the thing I would do is I would talk to the salespeople and I would try to figure out where do they struggle the most in connecting that value, and are there things that you can back into to support them, right? Because one of the things we run into all the time is like, it's too hard to do HubSpot. There's too much work involved in doing the content creation, or my best prospects aren't online, or I just did a website redesign, so I can't possibly start HubSpot now. So our marketing team has created blog posts and white papers and ebooks that reflect all of those different challenges that we deal with, but they're also legitimate business challenges. So it's never an overt, hey, read this so then you can buy our software. But we're then able to say, all right, do you see this thing over here that's giving you all this great example? That's why you need to do this thing now and not wait. So I think you can create it in sync if you really start to understand from your customers or from your salespeople where they really run into their objections, and can you back into content you can create to help them.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Amy.
Hello, Amy.
I'm the marketing department for a small software startup in Raleigh, North Carolina called Magnus Health. And we sell web-based software for managing student health information, mostly to K through 12 private schools. And I've been using HubSpot for all of 2012, basically.
Fantastic.
Do you have any advice for a young marketer who needs to get buy-in from her more traditional, old school, cold calling sales team? And I hope it doesn't involve not wearing t-shirts and jeans to work, because that just isn't going to happen.
I can appreciate that. That's an interesting one. That's a tough one. Because we're in a bit of an interesting situation where most of our salespeople are on the younger side. Mm-hmm. It can be very hard to change get a dog to change its spots kind of thing. Salespeople that are connected to a very specific way of selling can be difficult. The key thing that you're going to have to do, which is not going to be easy, is get some leads that actually turn into some big wins that those guys will then go, wow, this actually works. Like, you need to get those scores to happen. Okay. It really does boil down to that. I wish I had a better answer on that one, but you're going to need to generate some leads to make that work, because they're going to keep going down because a lot of salespeople look at it this way, hey, it worked, and I'm going to keep doing it again and again and again, right? And there are certain people, I've seen this happen, where they've done a particular sales approach and it worked one time, and they'll keep doing that same approach for 5 years thinking it'll work again. And they don't make any money because they're not willing to change. That's a hard thing to deal with, because people are set in the fact that, nope, I'm going to prove you wrong, that I can make this work right. So you're probably fighting some of that stuff, which is a little more fundamental, and I think you're going to need some buy-in from the leadership too to really drive some sort of change.
Okay,
That's a tough one.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Josh Paul with a company
Josh.
called Socius. Provide online customer community platforms for businesses. Can you talk a little bit about how HubSpot integrates the automated email lead nurturing with the sales lead nurturing? Because we're having trouble figuring out when each one kicks in. Do you wait till a lead comes in so you can look at the lead intelligence and then assign them to a automated flow if they're not ready to be followed up with?
So there's a key question on HubSpot forms that really drives a lot of where the lead's going to go, and it's, what is your biggest marketing challenge? When somebody answers that, they have a much higher likelihood of buying the software. So that will put it into a rotator in Salesforce that sends it right out to the sales team. We will not put those in a nurturing campaign. In many ways, what happens is the leads come in, and marketing sort of puts them in different queues. So they're sitting in different buckets, and they'll look at the bucket and decide, all right, are there leads here that are sales ready, and we'll push them over based on some of the factors in the forms. And then others, they'll say, all right, we're going to nurture these. And that's really how the decision ends up happening, is based on the answers that come through on the form. And they sort of decide, where do we want that to go? Because once it goes into Salesforce as a lead, I will say we will do some nurturing, but it's very light. It doesn't impact the sales process. We try to keep Demo requests, or I wouldn't say that. We'll do like demo stuff in there, but we'll keep like trial stuff out of there. Anything like that. We'll do mostly demo requests to try and spark the extra activity with the lead so that the salespeople see the intelligence build. So it's kind of a judgment call. There are definitely some that we route right out and they never go to a salesperson. There are others that based on the answers we'll send to a certain space, but we will send emails to them that are in support of the sales process because the marketing team knows very clearly what our sales process is. They understand what goes on in that research, prospect, and connect. So they're trying to send emails in those sequences that reflect getting somebody to consider to do an IMA, to take a free assessment or take a demo.
And sometimes that is a manual process to either take somebody out of an automated lead or assign them to a certain automated.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Thomas
Hello there.
Gallagher, Rally Software, Boulder, Colorado. We have a long sales cycle, and I was wondering.
Long, like 18 months, 2 years?
Yes. And I was wondering what happens when they get stuck in the cycle, when they get for a certain point and they basically start to kind of wallow in a particular stage of the cycle. Is there specific content? Is there specific timing that you use to which will move them back up into a different stage, or
So does the salesperson look at that as a viable opportunity? Like, is it a real opportunity or is it dead? And can they actually make that decision?
Right, and I think that's the trick, is they're trying to, what's best practices when it comes to.
So for us, we try to run a very clean pipeline. We try to make very sure that everything that's in that pipeline is actually legit. I kind of call it this whole notion, I apologize, but it's going to be a fairly disgusting statement, but it works for me, is this whole notion of polishing the turd, right? That's what salespeople tend to do, right? They'll hold that lead and they'll be like, I'm going to turn this thing into gold when it's actually crap. And they need to be confident and say, I'm wasting my time and I'm going to put this off to the side. So we do that and we let marketing nurture it. We let marketing work with it and try to re-engage it. We don't do that ourselves. We're too busy chasing real opportunities, so we work really hard to teach our salespeople to not chase something that doesn't have potential. We'll have them close lost it in Salesforce, and it goes over into a bucket. Marketing looks at the closed lost, and they nurture it. Now, our salesperson can certainly go back to it 6 months from now, a year from now, and try to re-engage if they have the time. But we really want them focused on what are real opportunities. It really comes down to having them be honest with themselves. Is this real or not, and should I be wasting my time on it? That's my recommendation.
Hi,
Hello.
my name is Nicole Hudson, and I'm our digital strategist in Molly Maid, which is a franchise, and I lead our business group in developing leads to sell the franchise. My question, Andrew, that I was quite intrigued by is, tell me a little bit about some of the qualifying measures or how you teach your salespeople to qualify.
Sure. So we actually have, let me count it up for a second. 7, we have 11 qualifying factors that we look for in moving a prospect from an inbound marketing assessment to a demo. One is BANT. I imagine a bunch of you probably heard of BANT, right? Budget, authority, need, and timing. Another is that thing I said of GPCT, right? Goal, plan, challenge, and timeline. So what I'm trying to do is understand, am I talking to a person that actually has authority, right? Do they have the money? Can they buy what I'm selling? Do they have the authority to sign the contract? Is there a need there? What's the timing? I'm also trying to get deeper into business goals. What are they trying to accomplish? What are the plans they have to try and get there? Challenges that might be in their way, the time frame in which they need to make all that stuff work. But then I'm also looking for 3 other things, which is really dependent on us, which is concept of a lead. Those are our best customers, customers that are trying to generate leads through their website. E-commerce companies can do okay, but they're not really our top sweet spot. It's companies that are trying to generate leads over the web. They have salespeople or they need to actually talk to somebody, make a sale happen. Do they have the commitment to create content, right? Are they committed to doing it? And do they have the capacity to actually do it over time? And capacity boils down to time or money. So you can find the same type of qualifying mechanism if you look at your business. which some of those absolutely apply. Is there money there? Is there, is there money to open a franchise? Am I talking to a person that can actually do it? Do they have the need to actually run their own business? What's the time frame in which they want to do that? What are some of the goals they want to accomplish in their business? Do they actually have a plan for moving forward, and does franchising fit with that? What are the challenges that might get in their way to making that work? What's the timing under which they want to have it happen? And then my guess is there are some other real specific qualifiers as to whether or not they'd be appropriate for the system. But I would look at something like that, and it can be a really powerful way to figure out whether or not a lead is worth pursuing.
Thank you. One more question. Our biggest supporter, or the person that typically makes or breaks the sale, is the spouse. So obviously
sure.
exactly, it's all about the wife, people. In your business, obviously, it's usually the VP of marketing or the CEO or whatnot, the person looking for the buy-in. What do you typically arm that manager or director with to then take back to the decision maker that helps move along the sales process?
So we actually try to stay away from that. Because we run into that too. Like, we definitely deal with small business owners, and the wife's involved in the discussion to spend, $2,400 to $5,000 a year, $10,000 a year on HubSpot, whatever it may be, based on the package they're going to get into. I look at it as we always try to get both parties onto that demo. We really don't like to arm the influencer with the presentation or the value points they need to make the decision maker. We find that just always falls flat. They're never going to tell the story as good as you are. So if they're really serious about this, they should be willing to bring the decision maker into the equation. And we won't actually go to demo. I shouldn't say that. We typically won't go to a second demo if there's not going to be a decision maker on it. We will demo an influencer to kind of build that in, but we won't go any further if we can't get a decision maker involved. It's really rare that we will kind of keep pushing that person to try and get the deal done. We really try to get them on the call to make that happen. That's my biggest recommendation.
Thank you.
Cool. I hope you all found the 45 minutes to be really fruitful. I hope you guys can go forth and leverage the assets you're already creating. You guys do have a lot of gold out there. Go forth and turn it into some sales. Enjoy the rest of the conference, my friends.